But I want to also recognize people who recently, in the past month or week, had purchased their unit. Raise your hand. Stand on up. I know there's somebody else as well. Thank you for purchasing the unit. Thank you for making an investment on your health. You're going to learn a lot more, but thank you for changing your own life, and I know changing your family's life and having that big heart. Thank you for being a friend as well, Eric. Give it up for Eric. So, since we're pretty much out of time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the guest speaker and the special speaker. This man is a Harvard graduate. I barely went to college. I went to one semester. It was too much for me, and then I left. So he's been to Harvard. So but he is very down to earth, very easy to understand, and he's been working a lot hard to make sure that we can make this a medical device here in the United States. So he has studies after studies. So without further ado, I'm not going to be here talking too much, but I'm going to bring him up. Please take notes. Ask questions. Are they okay with it? Dr. Horst, are they okay to ask questions at the end? Sure. Okay, so now this is a privilege. Now this man obviously could charge thousands of dollars for what he's about to do. He's doing it for free. He believes in the water. He believes in the technology. And when people say, I don't believe, I don't know, ask him, hey, where'd you graduate from? High school? Like, no, okay. But without further ado, please give it up for Dr. Horst. One more time, guys. That was weak. Come on.
We were delayed at lunch today to such a degree that they gave it to us for free because we had to wait for an hour. But in any case, I always like coming to Torrance. It's easy for me to drive here from Arizona, and it's a pleasure to be here. My job as medical advisor started 10 years ago, 11 years ago now, and I was asked to comment on comments that were made by distributors. And I was asked to see what would be acceptable to governmental regulations. As you know, when you make medical claims or health claims, the federal government has agencies that police, and they do this with a tremendous amount of ruthlessness and force. If you say some comments that are controversial or even false, the Federal Trade Commission can shut a business down for 90 days without cause. So if that were to happen, this would be a real disaster. So I made it my business to validate claims. Now, I've always claimed that the machine produces an antioxidant water, that it is pH balanced, and that it is microclustered, or in other words, very easily digestible. But the point is that all of these claims were based on sticking a test tube into the water or testing a probe and checking pH, checking ORP, but what does it translate into in the human body? Is it really an antioxidant? Now, the problem here is the testing methodology for a colorless liquid does not work in the tests that are available. So when you drink Kangen water and you have your serum antioxidant level measured by traditional methodology, it reads 0. And so no one could prove. For example, if you want to sell supplements and you make certain claims that these supplements have antioxidant qualities, you have to show that after ingestion of these supplements, your serum antioxidant level rises. Well, you can drink all the Kangen water you want. With traditional methodology, it doesn't work. So I was lucky, after doing some research, to find a laboratory that is highly accredited in this country by the Center for Disease Control, by the NIH and everybody else for their excellence of their work. And they had developed an antioxidant test using living human red cells. And that eliminated the colorless fluid bias, and it was actually possible to measure antioxidant effect with that methodology. So after discussing this with Mr. Oshiro and so on, everybody else involved, and after getting my friend Fred Brown involved, because I look at Fred not just as a friend, but he's kind of my manager. He knows much more about the business, and I have no clue about these things. But we went to this laboratory, and we set up several machines, and the laboratories in Klamath Falls and Oregon. And to make a long story short, the first series of tests were done in tissue culture. Human red cells, human neutrophils, and then also we did a mitochondrial assessment for energy production. And what did we find out? We found out that clearly Kangen water has a reproducible and robust antioxidant effect. No question about it. That's in living human cells. Much to my surprise, it also has a profound anti-inflammatory effect. When you take the neutrophils, incubate them with the Kangen water, the neutrophils slow down their response of degranulation. Translated, the inflammatory response of a neutrophil challenge is inhibited. So it's like aspirin, it's anti-inflammatory. And then, as a side, it was luck. It's always better, by the way, much better to be lucky than smart, believe me. And so we found a test that using immunofluorescence could measure the metabolic rate in the mitochondria. Now the mitochondria are organelles inside each cell, each living cell. And these are the engines of the cell. They produce energy. When you have a substrate, which is like glucose or so on, they can manufacture ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate that makes the nerves conduct. And lo and behold, we found out that the engine of the cell is revved up by ionized alkaline water, i.e. Kangen water. So when that happened, we were excited for obvious reasons, because now there is proof in living human tissue. And we went and did a controlled study in which we used 12 human volunteers. Klamath Falls is a college town, and it's good to get young people for human testing. Of course, you have to understand that whenever you do anything with humans, whether it's a drug test or any kind of test, you have to go through a great deal of preparation to make sure that the tests are safe, that no one will be harmed, that the people will be paid, and that a rigorous scientific methodology is developed so that these tests will show validity and can be reproduced by someone else. And with that, we got approval from an internal review board for the study, and we registered the study in with the federal government in clinicaltrials.gov. And again, registering that study gives you the advantage of knowing that it's been reviewed and that the study is valid and of proper contents and proper methodology and so on. So 12 people underwent an exercise challenge. The exercise challenge consisted of sit-ups, push-ups, jumping jacks, whatever. It lasted half an hour and was designed to raise the heart rate to close to 140, which is a good challenge. So picture this exercise challenge. It's the same for all 12 people. The first 3 weeks, they drank ordinary tap water from Klamath Falls. It has a pH of 8.6. It is good, clean water, meets all the health standards. And then these folks underwent the exercise challenge after drinking this water for 3 weeks. Then they went about their merry way for 3 weeks, and then they drank Kangen water, 9.5, 3 liters a day for 3 weeks, and underwent the same exercise challenge. And lo and behold, the results were terrific. They were really, really dramatic. When drinking the Kangen water, the participants noted fewer aches, pains, and side effects from the exercise. They also noted much quicker recovery from the stress of the exercise. Their red blood cell count went up by over 20%,
wow,
which is huge. And also, I'm sorry. What's that? Kangen water research. So,
the red blood cell count.
yeah, they went up. And that explains that these people recovered more quickly. They performed better and so on because of that fact. Also, the white cell count did not go up as high as it should have, or as compared to the other group, which meant that the inflammation generated by the exercise challenge was subdued. Finally, we did the last part of the study, and that was the one where we had trouble because we lost our funding, and we had to get money up, and I published a little booklet. We've been selling the booklet, and what has happened is that with that money, we were able to do an analysis of all tissue and fluid samples that were collected from each of the participants before they drank the water and after they drank the water. It was saved and frozen. And this was tested for special effects within the cells. The release of cytokines. Cytokines are messengers inside the cell that cause inflammation or not inflammation. They are immune system related, and they help in immunity, and they also help in a variety of different things. And what was found and what we noted was that in all the participants that drank the Kangen water, cytokines that are related to causing inflammation were reduced. Cytokines that are related to fighting inflammation, actually fighting inflammation, were increased. And also, the most important thing, superoxide dismutase is an enzyme that our liver creates. It is the most powerful antioxidant the body makes. It's huge. That enzyme is dramatically increased in production when we drink the Kangen water.
Wow.
And that is absolutely, well, let me put it this way. This is what I was hoping for, and this is what we've got. So we're now at the point of publishing the specifics on these cytokines. And following that, we're going to get the entire study and so on published in a peer-reviewed journal in this country, and hopefully also have the whole thing made into a video. Now, what does this do for you people who are interested in selling machines and what have you? It gives you hard data. This is data that is incontrovertible because it's scientifically researched, scientifically correct, and you cannot be accused of anything because a third party produced the data, and the data was followed a thorough scientific assessment and is reproducible. So with that, I'll open it up for questions. Yes, ma'am.
What is ATP? Can you explain that process again?
Adenosine triphosphate. It's a chemical that produces energy. It transmits energy so that your nerves, for example, can conduct electrical signals. Your muscles can contract, and all of your bodily functions run on ATP.
ATP.
ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Hello, my friend. You're back. Sir.
Okay, you said the white blood cells did not increase
That's right.
from drinking the Kangen water?
Right.
They did not increase.
Right.
So
you want your blood cells.
Sorry?
When the white blood cells did well, the white blood cells.
Well, the white blood cells go up in response to inflammation.
Oh,
Okay?
okay.
And so the water subdues that response. So it
Did have to
isn't
go
as strong. You don't have the inflammatory cytokines coming out as much, which we actually proved for specific cytokines. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank you for coming down and sharing information about this amazing technology. Few questions. Explain inflammation and how does that affect the body in a negative way, inflammation?
inflammation?
Yeah.
Well, it does and it doesn't.
Okay.
Inflammation is necessary to cause a defensive response, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you get bacteria invading your body, the lymph nodes generate these the inflammatory cells to come in and fight the invaders. That's a necessary and good response. But you also need a response to make that go away over time. And so inflammation is the basis of most of the degenerative diseases that we have. Mm-hmm. Rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, cardiac disease, even the formation of plaques in your blood vessels start out with inflammation. A fatty deposit is made under the membrane of your artery, under the lining membrane, and then inflammatory cells come in to try and cleaning up. And in that process, they cause, in the healing response, they cause a scar, and the scar grows, and the scar attracts more fatty substances. So you see, inflammation is the basis of virtually all of our diseases that are not caused by specific agents like virus, like bacteria, prions, and other things.
Wow, thank you. And the next question I have, explain how does this water help the body for as when somebody's dealing with diabetes?
Well, I'll tell you how it helps it, because first of all, the hydration. With better hydration, you're able to get the cells that are still active and still can make insulin. With better hydration, you make them work better. And the same is true if there is less inflammation involved, these cells work better. It won't do much for someone who has a type 1 diabetic, because type 1 diabetics don't make any insulin,
Right.
or if any. So it's a little different, but that's how it helps. And that's how it helps in so many different things.
Right.
I have a talk, which I'll be happy to give sometime, just on hydration. It's based on 800 European studies on dehydration.
Yeah.
Because nursing homes, chronic illnesses, they're so frequently associated with dehydration. Somebody's had a stroke, they have no interest in their environment, they don't drink water. It's you go to a nursing home, it smells because they don't pee, it's concentrated urine and so on. When you change that into optimum hydration with good water,
Yeah.
not great, not special water, but good water, it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Ma'am?
Oh, go.
We can finish with this question. I was just being curious about the concept of water fast. What's your opinion on water fast? Do you recommend it?
What water?
Water fast. When you fast,
Fasting,
just
water
fasting.
fasting.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I went on one. And I went anyway. I was out of my mind by, I went on, I met this doctor in Ireland, and he is a Chinese Chinese trained physician. He's Australian originally and had Lyme disease as a teenager. Couldn't do anything, couldn't walk, and went to Beijing, stayed there for 10 years, got a degree in Chinese medicine and fasting and all these different acupuncture, what have you. And he got rid of his Lyme disease completely. I mean, he's so skinny, it's disgusting, but he believes in fasting. I lost 40 pounds, okay? And I lost it by drinking water and not eating. But what happens is, you have a family, and then of course my wife's a nurse, and she obviously knows much more than I do, and it's insane to fast like this, and what have you. So the pressures, I lasted, I think, a month, a little over a month. Then.
Yeah.
And that's with no food.
Zero.
Wow.
Just water.
Grace?
Oh yeah, Ukan and all the vitamins by the handful. Yeah.
Question over there.
Dan.
Quick question, what's the best way to address when someone says drinking too much alkaline water could produce too much alkalinity in your body and that's dangerous?
Yeah.
I have a relative that is questioning me on that now. She goes, I don't want to drink 9.5 or 8.5, I just want to do neutral because I'm afraid I can go into the other extreme.
I can straighten them out. First of all, ionized alkaline water, the pH is electrically induced. We put a current in the water, we get electrons to spin, and what happens to the water if you let it stand overnight? That ORP goes from 600 to 300 to 120, and it's gone because the electric charge is dissipated and a stable process ensues. Now, Kangen water is no different from tap water. It is electrolyte composition, right? I mean, whatever is in the tap water is going to be in the Kangen. So if you drink too much of that water, the pH is easily dissipated through the lungs and the kidneys, not a problem. But the serum sodium in your body will drop because we need 120 plus milliequivalents of sodium in our serum, as opposed to 70 to 90 in tap water. So you start out diluting your serum sodium, you get seizures, cardiac arrhythmia, and it can kill you. Water intoxication. You cannot get too alkaline, but you can get water intoxication if you're cuckoo and you drink like 6 liters or something. I mean, that's why we say half a pound per pound of body weight, but not absolute body weight, ideal body weight. I have some heavy people in my practice, and I got them to drink the water. Well, if you weigh 250 pounds, you don't want to drink 125 ounces of water, because ideally you should weigh 70 kilograms. So that's pretty much what I'm trying to tell you. The fat part, the real body fat part, shouldn't be in the equation.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Appreciate it.
Sir.
In terms of the reproducible effects from these the 12 people, are you in the process of having more of the clients that are getting more tested?
Well, I think what we have done so far, I can run through this with you here. What we've done so far is established enough data from that single study that pretty much ends it. But we have now the ability to do more studies and other studies. We're not done with it because we haven't published it yet in the journal.
So there's more to come still, but.
So,
Question. Explain. Can you explain cancer? Cancer cells, and also how drinking the water can actually help the body out. That's when a person is dealing with their cells. Cancer.
The Kangen water has no direct effect on cancer one way or the other.
Okay.
And I can say that because the Warburg equation, and all that talk about him saying cancer can't live in an alkaline environment and all that kind of stuff. Well, he never said that. He never said that. Cancer cells function with a different metabolism. Our living human cells have what we call aerobic glycolysis. You need oxygen in order to make the glucose and all that. Whereas cancer cells don't need the oxygen. They are functioning by anaerobic glycolysis. And that's like fermenting, like making beer and wine, fermentation. So they can multiply like crazy, but they don't do much of anything else. See, because they're really primitive, but genetically virtually identical to our normal cells.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
What is your opinion about people with Alzheimer drinking the Kangen water? People with Alzheimer, the benefits of drinking.
Well, it's like anything else. When you have people with a chronic disease, they benefit by better hydration because it optimizes what they have. Cure for Alzheimer's, I wish it were, but no. If you ever had a chance to talk to Corinne Allen, Dr. Allen in Idaho there with her brain camp, she takes these people from terrible situations, neurologically traumatized children, adults, what have you. And the first thing she does, she hydrates them up. They've got to drink that water. And that initial thing immediately shows that they function better. And then, of course, she does other stuff. She gives them a good diet, and she actually touches them, Whatever happened to them? I went to a doctor in Bullhead City because I had to have a prescription. Not my doctor. I had my doctor forever in Boston. The guy never looked at me. He's sitting there with his computer, asking me a bunch of questions, typing stuff in. He listened to my heart for 30 seconds. Now, I know what physical diagnosis is all about. I know what you should be listening. You should be listening to. You should do an examination. Touching, feeling, hydration, diet really benefits chronic diseases to the point where many people can function again.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. I did get your book. I really appreciate the study. I'd like to get the other.
Yeah, we're in the process of.
You're in the process.
We're always in the process.
I'm waiting for that. I did want to share really quick. I did before I became or got my Kangen machine. I did a plant-based diet for 4.5 years and was able to reverse most of my lupus. Like I'm almost at normal measuring rate. And then got Kangen and started drinking it, so the inflammation went down, the pain, the joints. So I just wanted to mention that it works. And my question is, I've heard a lot like, it's okay to drink the 11, the 11, 11.5 pH, or the 2.5. Oh, if you get, a little stomach trouble, just have a little bit of the 2.5, and it should, help with that. And I'm not 100% sure about that. I feel a little like it might not be beneficial to drink that.
Well, let me say what the official position of Enagic and Kangen Water is. These extremes in pH are for topical use only. They're not for drinking. Now, if you're going to drink a little bit, okay, it's not a big deal. But 2.5 pH water is actually cytotoxic. You know, it can kill cells, so you don't want to do that.
No.
So
Thank you.
this is the thing we've had trouble with. So let's run through that. We are having, that's the last portion of the research, the cytokine. This is a reduction of multiple blood markers associated with the exercise-induced study. Okay, which way, Fred?
If it's not working, I can get it prepared.
Was that?
If it's not working with that, I can get it.
You might have to turn it on the side.
I need to turn it on.
Flip it over.
Dr.
Okay.
Filtzer, can I ask a question?
Yes.
May I ask a question? You were talking about cancer and the fact that I have a couple of friends and, well, money is no object, so therefore they went through stem cell transplant, and the other one went to immunotherapy, which is still not as advanced or being used. And everyone from all the reading side I have done is the fact that really it's more damaging to be on those radiation and chemotherapy. And my husband died of lung cancer, so he went through that. In 5 months he was dead. So I wish he was still alive to get hold of this new immunotherapy. But my question is, I think what's most important, I'm a nutritionist, is for us to boost our own immunity before we could even get the immune cells. I said what it is, the immunotherapy is getting the immune cells from your own body. When you have bad immunity, a low rate immunity, it doesn't do anybody good, even though if you have millions of dollars.
Well,
Thank
look,
you.
I mean, the whole thing with chemotherapy is changing dramatically.
Thank you.
Because the chemotherapy is basically a balance between killing the cancer cells and killing you.
And killing also the normal cells. Yeah.
So it's a dangerous kind of therapy.
Thank you.
And if you, I can recommend a book to you, which is very exciting. It's called, oh my goodness, it's written by a guy named Mukherjee, and it is called The Emperor of All Maladies. Emperor of All Maladies. This guy gives the history of cancer throughout the centuries and how it has evolved into both an industry
Yes.
and the anti-cancer industry. You know, and he is very critical of these folks because give more money so we can find a cure. The statistical probability is to find the cure the way we're going at it right now, extremely remote that we'll ever find. Tyrannosaurus rex had cancer. We know that 200 million years ago, living animals had cancer. So the reason we have cancer is because a tiny, tiny glitch in an RNA or a DNA sequence causes the cell to mutate. And there are so many agents that could potentially can cause a glitch in that replicating DNA and RNA. So we're getting better at gene splicing and all kinds of different stuff. But man, we're a long way away.
Right. Thank you.
All right.
Dr. Filtzer?
Yes.
But like talking about cancer, they said it's like, now that it's like, we used to have like 1 out of 50 Americans had cancer, but now they said it's like 1 out of 3. Is that because the way that, the medical field can make more accurate, clear diagnosis, is it really that cancer patients are increasing?
Well, first of all, the population has increased
Right.
dramatically, right? Also, when they say cancer, they count all cancers, okay?
What do you mean
All cancers,
all
the vast majority of which are skin cancers. You know, and they don't usually kill you. I mean, they can, obviously. Melanoma can be very lethal, but little squamous cell, basal cell, I don't see, I I don't see that there is any dramatic difference. I'll give you an example. Breast cancer, of course, is huge. Huge. It's a huge, huge thing that happens to women, and it's an epidemic. I mean, it's there. In 1904, Halstead and Meyer published a series of 200 women patients who had been treated by radical mastectomy. That was the operation way back when, which we don't do anymore. Okay? And they then followed all these people to their death, and with or without cancer. And when you look at that study, and you look at the statistics, and you look at the statistics today, except for a time bias, there's no difference. We're not curing any more than they did in 1904. And we're not curing any more, we're not curing any less. We're much less radical about the treatment because it's disfiguring the form and really doesn't help. So we're not as smart as we think we are.
Thank you.
But
All right.
these days, there's like, diagnosed comes, like stage 0 cancer for breast cancer. What the hell is that? Stage 0 cancer.
Well, I don't know what that means. I can't say. Okay. Tell me, why am I?
Maybe it's the other button, bro. Let me try. Oops, sorry. Let me see. So you would press this.
That one, the one that's invisible.
There you go.
All right. So the early results I talked to you about, and here it is, we'll go over it again. The antioxidant properties of Kangen water are superior to tap water. There's suppression of the inflammation response, inflammatory response of neutrophils, and an upregulation of the mitochondrial function and cellular energy production in the presence of glucose. Why do I put that in? Because you can't produce more energy if you haven't got something to burn, right? If your car's out of gas, engine's not going to run. You have to have something. And the substrate of the mitochondria is glucose. Now, the next study I'll talk to you about are the findings of the exercise-induced stress study with 12 participants. And we found that the alkaline ionized water supported a stronger physiologic response to the exercise challenge. Also, it reduced the levels of inflammatory cells in the body. It also caused the red cell mass to increase, so it increased the oxygen carrying capacity. And there was a faster return to normal plasma lactate levels. And also, basically the conclusion is that the water has measurable effects on various biomarkers and the subjective sense of well-being. Now, the study was designed what they call a crossover trial. The same people did the same thing, only with Kangen water and without Kangen water. And the difference, so they were their own control, right? They did the same thing, only with different fluids. And so we've talked about this, how the study was designed. Now, cytokines, and this is really where the money is, because inside the cell, something happens that is good. It's healthier with the water when compared to ordinary water. So cytokines are a diverse group of non-antibody proteins that are released by the cells. They act as intracellular mediators and messengers, especially in the immune process. They are produced by cells involved in both natural and specific immunity. They regulate the expression of their own receptors. They bind to receptors with high affinity, and they mediate and regulate immune responses. Monokines are those that are produced by monocytes, or phagocytes. Lymphokines are produced by T cells. Interleukins are cytokines made by one leukocyte and act upon another. And chemokines that have to do with chemotactic chemotactic activity being an attraction of certain cells to certain processes. This is the official study that was published, like 30 pages long. And these were specific cytokines that were measured and measurable in this study. Tests were done for many others, but they didn't appear, probably because they don't ordinarily appear with water anyway. So here's the result again. Inflammatory markers are reduced by ionized alkaline water. Tumor necrosis factor alpha, macrophage chemoattractant protein 1, interleukin 1RA, just names of it. The green line, the green spike, is with Kangen water. The blue one is with regular water. Yes?
With that ionized alkaline water, with this study involved in 9.5?
Yes.
Thank you.
9.5 and yeah, standard SD501 produced. And Fred, we used K8 to write. Yeah. All right, so here it reaches statistical significance, which is very important. And then there are markers that show an increase followed by a decrease. And those are the markers that subdue inflammation. So they go up in order to suppress the inflammation and then go down and usually below baseline. So again, all significant and all specific for the water. And now this is the big one. This is the big kahuna. Superoxide dismutase. It is a very complicated enzyme, but it can literally take the most powerful oxidants and neutralize it. This is the best antioxidant we made. And this is how the process goes. It's really not important. It just goes through a variety. It forms peroxidases and then attacks free radicals, neutralizes them into oxygen and water. Now look at this. Green is superoxidized dismutase with Kangen water. It goes up higher and it stays up higher. And that's, if anything, the message that is absolutely impressive. So, the evidence that distinguishes Kangen water from ordinary drinking water are supported by original research. Kangen water is effective in human living cell cultures. It is effective in upregulating the mitochondria. It proves to be of benefit in reducing stress and increasing the rate of recovery. It causes decreased neutrophil count. It causes an increased red cell count. And so I think we should drink Kangen water because of energy, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, stress reduction, pH balance, and no additives. Nothing. Natural.
That's awesome.
What's next? Manuscript writing, ongoing research. We want to do more. We want to continually educate ourselves and fellow distributors. And we are going to publish a new comprehensive text. And we're going to continue our fundraising efforts. And we do that by just, charging a fee for the books. The research costs are high. When you deal with these 12 participants, just to pay them what is customary, that was about $2,500 per person. So, going to college is getting better all the time, yes. And then, reagents and raw materials, they're all much more efficient, but these machines that are auto-analyzers are extremely expensive. And you need all kinds of approval, and you need to collate the data. And when you write a manuscript, you need to show it around to different scientific authors so that they can check it to make sure you're not going to publish some garbage, you know. And so it's expensive. So I want to basically thank Mr. Oshiro and Fred and Mr. Mahara, Mr. Higa, Bo-san, Charlie, Fukuda-san, thank you. And I appreciate that you come to hear me talk. Thank you.
Can I ask one question, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
We really appreciate your courtesy and your scholarly wisdom. This is uncommon, you know. A genius to explain something so phenomenal. This is something that's
I wouldn't say genius, but
you are.
I
brilliant. Yeah.
I do people.
Harvard graduate for sure. You know, you're definitely brilliant. But I just have a question. In terms of the technology, what is causing the youthfulness and the energy? Because I drank 2 cups of water. I'm new to the Kangen family, and I was up all night, working all night, and didn't feel like, and I slept 2 hours the following day and did it again. So what is in that stuff? Or what is not in that stuff?
Got your wire.
That's creating the youthfulness. Yes, I drank something that
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
So what is it that, what is chemically, what is it that, because I'm
Just explain.
generally a healthy person anyway, you know, I'm vegetarian, I don't play about health, I'm very health conscious. But what is it that's doing that,
Super
like
outside
scientifically? I just wanna know because everybody in here, that the elders don't look it, they don't look their age, and they're drinking it, so I'm just wondering what is the secret?
Well, I think first of all, I mentioned earlier I have a talk on hydration alone.
Mhm.
I've got a slide of 2 women in their late 40s, early 50s, okay? No makeup, no anything. And they have a photograph of their face, each one of them. And then they deliberately drink 3 liters of water a day for a month. And then they are photographed again. No makeup, no anything, no filters or anything like that. And when you look at them, you say, well, they must have had a facelift. You know, because the cells fill out. The water penetrates dry skin cells. It gives a moisture to the skin. It gives kind of a glow to the skin. I mean, the ladies look like, you know, you see these frustrated housewives and stuff. And then they look like babes.
I want to be a babe, but I'm
Well, you are.
70. It's like, hey, this woman is amazing. She doesn't look her age like the nutritionist. Everybody doesn't. She's a scientist.
81.
She looks like a diva, like a seasoned
81?
diva.
81. I'm 81.
Oh, wow.
I'm 81, and I'm in no medication. How long you been? And I can do 40 push-ups.
Wow.
And let us see those
This is
heels.
the hydration process.
Turn to the side.
How long
Look at that. She's wearing
Going on 5 years. Yeah.
high-end Cheetos.
Yeah.
81. That's 81 right there.
You know?